Yes, welcome into Sports Bit. Betting Insight today, Thursday, December 8th. Pauly and Teddy, big game breakdown. Army, Navy, Spurs and the Bulls on TNT, and Iowa State on ESPN2, plus the play of the day. We'll run it all down coming up. We have you covered today. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Let's start in the association. A bad bet. The Knicks are not ready for prime time. The Cavs hammer them again. They were 22 of 40 from three on the route, Teddy.
Yeah. 9 different players hit at least one three-pointer for the Cleveland Cavs last night. And, to say the Knicks weren't ready for the big boys, it probably wasn't the best spot for the Knicks. Derrick Rose banged up, coming on the second night of back-to-backs off a win over Miami. But when Cleveland, there's only 2 teams in the NBA that are like this right now. When Cleveland or Golden State is hitting from three-point range, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Those 2 teams are hitting. You're not going to win. You're not going to cover. And the Cavs last night, everybody hitting shots at MSG as LeBron's posse makes a statement. And yes, I'm being facetious with the posse comment. Obviously, LeBron a little bit riled up about Phil Jackson calling his business associates, quote unquote, a posse, which is not obviously an appropriate thing to do. And the Knicks found out the hard way about that on the floor.
This is very good for in-game wagering and also totals. When it's garbage time, it still bombs away with the Cavs because they bring in Dunleavy, James Jones, and also Felder is running the point too. So they still score a lot of points in garbage time when the starters leave. Blazers took some money, bad bet. Second winner this week with the Bucks and the Greek Freak with a triple-double.
Yeah, and that's honestly the worst headline we could ask for Milwaukee. Because we want the Bucks to get as little publicity as possible. We want no one to notice Milwaukee. This is our team. This is our moneymaker. We've had them obviously twice this week as play of the day. I would like to use them on a consistent basis for the play of the day over the course of the next month. Just like I said, this team's got 20-10 ATS written all over them in the next 30 ball games. But when Antetokounmpo starts getting triple doubles and getting headlines, maybe that run might not last as long as I like. The Bucks, number 1 in the NBA in defense from the three-point range. They allowed 17 threes last night. Didn't matter. And here's the sports bit. We told you so photo of the day. Look at Greek Freak last night. A monster.
Someone was betting the Mavs last night. The Kings went off a three-point. Kings still went off his three-point road chalk. They won by 30.
Yeah, someone. I don't know if it's an individual, a syndicate, whoever it was betting Dallas right before tip-off. Got a fair bit of money down on the Mavs. It wasn't pretty. And when Sacramento beats you by 30, it's problematic. And, you look at the Mavs starting front court. Right now they have Dorian Finney-Smith, an undrafted rookie free agent, starting instead of Dirk Nowitzki. And at the center spot, you have Salah Mejeri. He declared for the draft in 2008. He went undrafted. He's been bouncing around Europe. He played 34 games with Dallas as a rookie last year. That's not exactly a dominant front court duo. The Kings ate him up in the paint last night.
Big night for upsets in college basketball. Indiana State plus 9.5 beat Butler. Moneyline paid big on all these. George Mason beat Penn State, and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech was getting 15.5. They beat VCU. Wild night, Teddy.
Yeah, Indiana State plus 425. George Mason plus 400 on the money line. Georgia Tech plus 975 on the money line. George Washington plus 9 on the money line. They beat Temple. Big night for big upsets. And the near miss UTEP plus 11.5 at New Mexico that would have paid plus 575. They ended up losing 78-77. The Miners were up 3 with 25 seconds to play. They gave up a layup. Then they missed a front end of a 1-and-1. And then allowed the game-winning jumper. And what do you say, Pauly? 90% of blown college leads in the final minute somehow equate to missed free throws. That's one stat to be very aware of when you're handicapping college basketball. And not just the team aggregate free throw shooting, but the guys who are the ball handlers that are going to get fouled and have to make free throws to win and or cover. The UTEP Miners last night. Ooh, so close for Miner money line backers. That was brutal.
Yeah, and the bad bets continue. The Celtics were bet down to a 1-point favorite against Orlando. They overreacted to no Isaiah Thomas. It wasn't a problem.
Yeah, what do we say? We've talked about this on Sportsbet over and over. We'll probably talk about it 50 times between now and the end of the regular season until we get to the postseason. We'll probably talk about it 10 more times then. The markets overreact to minor injuries. They overreact to one-game absences. They overreact, especially the first game when somebody's out. Isaiah Thomas, sure, he's a starting point guard. He's one of their leading scorer. Doesn't matter. 7 players scored in double digits. Kelly Olynyk would have made it 8. He was 1 point short with 9. And, of course, the ball moved all night. 29 assists for the Celtics versus only 10 turnovers. Their best assist man, how about the big man, Al Horford, 8 dishes in 29 minutes of play. 0 turnovers, by the way. And they have 3 different guys that can play the point instead of, it's not like they have no other point guards on the roster. Isaiah's out. Okay. They still have Marcus Smart. They have Avery Bradley. And they got Terry Rozier coming off the bench. Not like Boston had a problem with the Magic. And, of course, Orlando coming off a rare win for them. They played better in the last couple of weeks, but the Magic are not a team we're looking to go on extended winning runs right now. The Celtics made a statement in Orlando without their point guard last night. That was bad bets for those who were betting the Magic.
Miami, Atlanta over 199, bet up to 203.5, fell 198. Miami didn't have many available players. That was odd.
Well, yeah, I think the thought process was that the Heat were going to be short defensively. They only had 8 active players last night available for the second night of back-to-backs. And, you know, the ton of over money in this one. As you mentioned, 199 all the way up to 203. The Heat only had 63 points entering the fourth. They made some shots in garbage time, but the under cashed, all that over money, went to the house.
Here comes revenge. Bad for the books. Remember the Rockets lost in L.A. the first game? They bet up to 13.5, and the total was bet up to 223. There was a stretch in the second quarter where they scored 6 points, I think, in a 6-minute stretch. They still dropped 134 on the Lakers.
Yeah. I mean, the bookmakers knew they were in trouble when it was 43-27 after one quarter. The Lakers last night, not a 2-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio, a 2-to-1 turnover-to-assist ratio. 27 turnovers, only 14 assists. L.A., they have some backcourt problems right now, really banged up, and the Rockets were able to take advantage. That was a bad result for the house. Nothing but Houston and over money. The parlay cash with ease.
It's wild. They have a bad stretch. They still score 134. And like last night, the Warriors didn't score in the first 3 minutes, and they still scored 37 points in the first quarter.
The explosive teams are capable, man.
As you mentioned earlier with the Cavs as well. Big game breakdown up next. Army, Navy. Can Army end the drought? And we'll get to 2 college games, 1 college basketball, 1 NBA game coming up on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Go to SBROdds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBit, Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy, time for a big game breakdown. As always, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Army, Navy from Baltimore. Navy, 6, 47.5 the total. Army has not won since 2001. The gap is closing, though, after the stretch of 9 straight in double figures. 4 of the last 5 losses by 7 points or less. Army, 4-1 ATS in those games, Teddy. And Navy, a bit of a gamble, joining the American Athletic Conference because they were in a title game last week now.
Sure. I mean, and the biggest game on Navy's schedule every year is supposed to be Army and vice versa. I mean, this is an old-timey rivalry. They have their own weekend, where nothing else is going on in college football except for Army-Navy. So this is big time. And when you talk about the fact that Army hasn't won since 2001 in this series, and that 4 of the last 5 losses by a touchdown or less, excruciating defeats for Army. They've been covering numbers, not good enough to actually win the games. Then we talk about the gamble for Navy. Yeah, when you join a conference like the AAC, you have a chance to win a conference. You have the chance to step up the program. You have a chance to play in some big-time bowl games. But the downside of that, anytime that they could qualify for the AAC title game, it's going to mean playing Army without any break. This is the 8th straight week that Navy is going to be playing. Meanwhile, Army, they haven't played since rolling Morgan State back on November 19th. They haven't played a D1 foe since the week before that. So full focus on one game for 3 weeks for Army. Navy, they were playing for a conference championship last week, and they lost, and they got wiped out in that contest. Different level of focus, even though it is their arch rival.
And it got worse, because against Temple, quarterback Will Worth got hurt, and the co-captain running back Gully was injured. Worth averaged 12 yards per pass, QB rating of almost 180. Would have been number 4 in the nation if he had enough attempts to qualify. Gully, 4 touchdowns. Now Neil Matalolo, faces his biggest challenge against Army because what do we know about these quarterbacks? What do we know about some of the backups?
Well, we know that before Worth got hurt, right here on Sports, we were saying this guy's got to be in the Heisman discussion, which of course he wasn't going to be. But when you talk about a Navy offense, that for the month of November, 4 games, 2 punts and 1 turnover combined, all right, that's how good their offense was. Now you lose Will Worth and you lose Taneo Gully, which is not your 2 locker room leaders, your 2 best players. It's a big deal. The sophomore, Zach Abbey, takes over at quarterback. He hasn't thrown a pass until coming in against Temple last week, and he wasn't very good. Threw a pair of interceptions in that ballgame. Here's the quote from the offensive coordinator, Ivan Jasper. Quote, "He's up for next week in the biggest game of the year, and we've got to get him ready to go. I'm not going to let it change the game plan. We've got to go out and play. We can't play tight. We can't play scared. We got to go out and play. He's got enough reps in practice to where he knows what's going on, and we've got to go out there and just play." If you note the common theme in Jasper's quote, just go out there and play, just go out there and play, just go out there and play. He's trying to get his team not to focus on the fact they're going to have a very inexperienced quarterbacks going up against Army, replacing an elite QB who was the backup to begin with. You remember, Worth started the year as the backup. So Abbey is now the 3rd stringer, a guy they really hoped wasn't going to have to take a snap this season. Jasper saying, hey, we're going to do the best we can. But obviously, so far this week, Pauly, the money in this game has been completely one-sided. They have bet Army in every way possible, hand over fist. Wise guy money coming in on the Black Knights.
People I respect like the under. Did this game come up at the Tuesday group? What do you think of the total?
All the games come up at the Tuesday group is what we do. I mean, Pauly, of course, referencing a group that I've been going to basically since I got to Vegas 20 years ago. A bunch of old guys sitting around in sweatpants, breaking down every single game in college football every week. And it's something I do. It's a fun little social experience that, of course, gets me out of the house, gets me in the mix, talking to a lot of different people and getting a lot of different varying opinions. But for this game, certainly there was some interest on the under, and there was a lot of interest for the Army side of the equation. At the time, the line was as high as 7. Those were getting wiped out. The 6.5 has been wiped out. Now we're talking about 6s.
Up next, we'll get to the NBA on TNT. Spurs and the Bulls, and then Iowa State and Iowa in college hoops, plus the play of the day. That's next on SportsBit. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Do your research before you bet. Check out our ratings guide to see which books have the best ratings and sign-up bonuses. Open up several accounts. Shop for lines at SBRodds.com. Always be ahead of the game.
All right, wrapping up on SportsBit, Pauly and Teddy. Big game breakdown in a second. Tonight, ESPN 2, Teddy's on. This Vice special, Teddy. Tell people about it.
Yeah, Vice World of Sports. The episode is called The Line. It's about at least the part that I'm in, is about the Super Bowl with the Patriots and the Seahawks. There'll be some fun live betting scenes there from the Westgate. But I haven't seen it, so let's check it out. Again, tonight, ESPN 2, 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific. It'll be after the Iowa State game. I think there's a Sports Center in between. But set those DVRs. Let's check it out and see what it's like.
I was there with you. I might be in this thing.
Yeah, you're good. Didn't we do a radio spot in this?
We did that too,
and I?
yes. They taped
that
us.
Should be on there too.
They recorded us during the Super Bowl, and you know what happened at the end? The place was going crazy when Butler intercepted the pass, and then we came back with everybody and recapped it the next day on the radio.
Yeah, that should be awesome.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll be on. Now that I'm thinking about it, you have to be on there,
All right,
Paul.
well, we'll see.
Good, yeah, check it out tonight, ESPN 2. Again, 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock here on the left coast. Set those DVRs or watch it live.
TNT, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Spurs hit the road to take on the Bulls. Spurs 3, 199 the total. Bulls with a rare cycle of 4 days off after Thanksgiving and a 1-5 straight up in ATS since, losing the spread by 49 points across the 5 games. Did the 1-game suspension for Rondo pay off? I don't know, Teddy.
No. The answer is no. Rajon Rondo came out. That's an awful game against Detroit. 10 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, no steals, 3 turnovers, largely a non-factor. The Bulls were minus 10 when in the 37 minutes that he was on the floor. And really, he was the GOAT. on the floor. I mean, the Pistons made their fourth quarter run, and on 3 consecutive possessions, Rondo's got a bunny in the paint, Rondo's got a layup, Rondo gets to the free throw line. He missed both free throws, he missed the bunny, and he missed the layup, and that's when the Pistons extended in the fourth quarter. So, not as what does Fred Hoiberg do now? And could the fact that Hoiberg has not been an NBA head coach prior to last year be an issue in why things are going badly in Chicago right now? Quote, Hoiberg, we're hitting a rough patch right now, and you've got to find a way to fight through that. It's what's going to define our team this year, how we handle these adverse situations.
You complimented Rondo the other day on the show. I wanted to slap you if you were sitting next to me. This guy's a cancer. He hasn't been on a team that's won a playoff series since 2011, 2012. And here, I'm going to read a quote here from him, and he's full of shit. He met with the media for the first time since a suspension. Quote, I don't really read the papers. Lie. I don't have Instagram or social media, so whatever you guys write, good luck with what you're writing. I'm going to continue to work as hard as I can to be the best player for this team and try to lead the right way. I'm okay with where I am in life and what I bring to this team, end quote. Yeah, he's cashing the paycheck with a gun and a ski mask. And also, all these athletes who say this, they're lying. They know what you write. They know they listen to sports talk radio, and their friends tell them what these guys are saying too.
I disagree with you 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
Look, Rondo had a bad game, okay?
Yeah.
He had a bad game in Detroit coming out of suspension. And the Bulls aren't playing good basketball right now. There's no question about that. But when you talk, it's like vitriol. People hate Rondo.
They didn't give him they didn't give him the playoff money in Dallas. They hated him so much.
Correct. He did not work out in Dallas. That does not appear to be the case in Chicago. And again, we were reading the quote from Rondo's teammates in Chicago, from Jimmy Butler, saying he's as good a teammate as I've ever had. He makes me a better player. Rondo's not worried about stats, and I believe Rondo when he says he doesn't read the papers every day. He's not that kind of guy. He's he beats to a different drum, let's put it that way. But I think he takes more criticism than is due for him. That being said, Chicago's playing bad basketball right now. Not an easy team to support against a team like San Antonio.
Well, Celtic fans know this. The game's on national television, so he'll show up. National TV Rondo. When it's not a big game, nowhere to be found. Spurs do it a different way. Another nice win on the road in Minnesota. No Parker. Aldridge and Gasol only combined for 17 points and 9 rebounds. Kawhi had 1 rebound in 35 minutes. They win by 14. They are 13-0 on the road. Amazing.
But again, read what you just read again, because that's insane. They've got no Tony Parker. Okay, this is a team it's a league driven by stars. So their starting point guard's out. Their big men, Aldridge and Gasol, those are the stars. They combined for 17 points. Kawhi Leonard, 1 rebound in 35 minutes of play. They didn't just win. They win by 14. They're up 13. I mean, it's no other team in the league can do that. Pop gets contributions from everybody on the roster in the way that nobody else does. I mean, look at this guy. We have Nicholas Laprovitola. Okay, he's the latest player to get a chance to start for Pop. He was 21 minutes as the number 1 point guard against Minnesota. His first career NBA start. And gosh, you hear the quotes. He says how they're talking about the next Manu Ginobili. Quote, I played in a lot of countries. I know my game. I trust my game. I think Pop trusts in me. This is very important. My teammates too trust me and my game. Don't know if he's going to be the starting point guard again tonight because Parker is with the team and he could return to action. But the fact that it's just one more capable player coming off the bench for San Antonio, that's a special team in that regard.
Last one, college hoops now. Live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Iowa State at Iowa. Cyclones 6, 157 the total on ESPN2 at 5 o'clock Pacific. Arguably bigger than any conference game for either team. Standalone each December as a showcase for the state, and the two programs get after each other, Teddy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the losing team in each of the last 7 meetings has scored at least 71 points. Twice in the last 3 seasons, the losing team has been 82 or plus. Iowa State wins 83-82 at home last year, but it's a very different setting this year compared to last year. There is a major, not a minor, a major experience gap. So Iowa State in a very rare favorites role. They haven't been favorites in Iowa City very often. But this Cyclones team, one of the most experienced teams in the country. Look at the graphic. The starting 5, senior, graduate transfer. The 6th man off the bench, another graduate transfer. So not only is Iowa State deep, They're as veteran as it gets in the modern college basketball landscape.
Morris, the heart and soul, played 718 of a possible 735 minutes in the Big 12 last year, number 3 in the nation in assist-to-turnover ratio. Here's a quote. We want to go in there and make a statement, set the tone, and send a message both to Iowa and the country. We're trying to go out there and beat them badly, end quote. And then you got Fran McCaffrey, the Iowa coach, on Morris. He can shoot, he can drive, he can hit floaters, he can make layups, go in either direction. It's his ability to make the right decision that separates him. That's the challenge for any team that will play him. You got to put pressure on him and defend him as hard as you can. You know, and Iowa has Jock, the senior, who's been dynamite. But if you're wondering why he makes gestures like this, it won't be a fair fight considering the lineup. Because other than Jock, look at the youth, Teddy. Jock's the senior. These other guys are young.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just it. Iowa with one senior in their starting lineup. Then you have the sophomore, Ahmad Wagner. And then you have 3 freshmen, in Jordan Bonahan, Isaiah Moss, Cordell Pemsey. So you're talking about one team that's as experienced as it gets, that's looking to go on the road and make a statement on national TV against their biggest rival and their opponent. Hey, I mean, Jock's having a heck of a year, but they're young. I don't know if they're ready for the physicality that Iowa State brings to the table, which is why, Pauly, we're using this game for play of the day tonight.
Yes. What do you want? 519, Iowa State -6. Play of the day. Burton's going to have a big game. They'll push those younger Hawkeyes around. You saw the money quote. They just don't want to win. They want to embarrass them and blow them out in a statement game as well. 2-1 so far this week in a 31-19 run with the play of the day. Betting number 519. Lay it with Iowa State. Enjoyed the show on ESPN2. Hell of a game with the Raiders and the Chiefs. And we're back Friday for the weekend preview edition. All the marquee NFL games. We'll talk to you then on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.